Welcome to a very special episode of Back to the City. I am joined by my very good friend, Channing. Welcome, Channing.
Thank you.
We've been trying to make this happen for a bit.
Quite a bit. Happy to be here.
I'm very happy that you're here. There are two exciting shows next month that you're involved in. One of them I'm also involved in because it is the record release for Hum, which is the record that I've been working on to complement my book, Hummingbird Heart. And the other one, very excitingly, is with Government Mule.
Yes.
Government Mule, for people who are unaware, is, correct me if I'm wrong, like a spin-off band for the Allman Brothers backing band.
Yep, so Warren Haynes, being part of it. Warren Haynes, I know that he found like Marcus King, and if he has a thing for redhead blues playing guys, then...
You're his man.
Yeah.
Alan Woody, the bassist, also from the Allman Brothers band, is another core member.
Yep.
So that show is going to be on Saturday, June 24th at Fargo Brewing Company.
Yep, outdoors,
Yep, the KNOTTIES are from Fargo originally.
Yep, we were based out of Fargo we've been a band for 6 years. I'd say we were all in Fargo for 8 years, except for Johnny, our drummer. He's from New London, Olivia, Minnesota, Spicer, Wilmer area.
And Michael, the bassist, encountered him at a show in Duluth. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how we found him. That was the best thing that could have ever happened for us, becoming a band, finding Johnny.
I'm putting together the backstory that I've encountered in looking at past interviews and just through being friends with you guys and then talking with you at Mortimer's.
Yeah.
So you reconnect with Michael at a coffee shop.
So the craziest thing, the part of reconnection is that Michael was my 10th grade English teacher.
Exactly, yes. That was the thing that wasn't in the interview, but I did know from our chat at Mortimer's.
That is one of those hidden gems of the of the band.
You have to befriend the band to know, watch this interview.
Yeah, right,
to
please.
know that little fact. Red Raven Espresso Parlor is the location. So, and then you'd been playing a solo set.
Yeah, I was actually opening up for his band.
For Michael's band?
For his first band when he moved to Fargo after quitting teaching and becoming a writer for Houston Engineering.
So Michael and I have a similar trajectory. We discovered when we first met at Mortimer's.
Yes.
Where we both have a background in education. I am Dr. Simon R. Calder. I'll have everybody know.
You deserve it. You earned it. That's a thing. That's respectful. That's respectable. I mean,
the reason why I draw attention to it with the record is because the record comes from the book, which I realized the methodology from my PhD, I have a PhD, that's why Dr. Simon called it, is active in all the Back to the City interviews. I just kind of pay attention to my friends who are local musicians in the same kind of way that I would pay attention to, say, a 19th century British novelist in my PhD.
Yeah.
But it's much more fun. I get to swear more if I feel like it. And it's more interactive.
Yeah.
But I've put teaching within a conventional context to the side to work on writing a book, make a record. There's actually a workbook that is going with the record where I'm kind of stepping back into my Dr. Calder role outside of higher education with the 10 songs on Hum. Being like a guided journey through harnessing creativity. The 10 songs on Hum are like prompts for anyone who wants to go on this journey, and the only two ways that people will be able to hear the Hum songs until January, when the book release will be either from buying a CD at our show on June 8th at the VFW, or going through this workbook where there are QR codes that go to secret SoundCloud versions of the songs.
Interesting.
Where they are the prompts for the writing exercises to help you harness your hummingbird heart. So anyway, that's Dr. Calder. That's enough about me, Dr. Calder.
That's very cool. I did not know the whole... that's great, actually, the worksheets and stuff. I mean, like, you got to work for the music.
Because you
got to work for the listen,
For me, my life is so much more meaningful because of my commitment to music.
Yeah.
And presumably that's the case for you as well. Music plays a central role in both of our lives.
Absolutely.
We spend half our time at Mortimer's where in my natural environment I am at the beginning of the music video, having a shot of Malone.
Yeah. It's all new to me too, just being new to the cities. I'm grateful that I moved here and happened to find a place like Mortimer's and people like the people at Mortimer's, or and it's dive bars for me, right?
Yeah,
like,
me too.
I appreciate them. There's some history, there's some culture, there's stuff I can even write about and write while being there. But I knew you for a long time, and I finally
because of this show.
Well, no, was it this show? I found you online when I was in high school in Valley City, North Dakota.
Well, just interviewing bands.
You came up on a thing, I don't even remember how, but I remember I followed you for 8 years. And
So that was before the Knotties. If the Knotties has been 6 years.
Way longer.
Yeah, but you were already an active musician there.
Absolutely.
And so what were
It
you
was
doing?
the Back to the City, because it was the interviews. Yeah,
It wasn't in this TV studio.
No,
yet,
it was just a long time ago.
Probably in my house? Did it look
Could
like it
have
was
been.
a house?
I don't know.
I lived by Powderhorn Park, and for a long time, a couple of years, I would just do the interviews in my house.
Interesting. Yeah, I just remember being at Mort's that one day, and you were with Andara, and
Yes.
he had said he was like, I gotta go meet with
Michael's.
Simon, and that was just the craziest.
So prior to encountering me at Mortimer's, you and Michael, your one-time 10th grade
teacher,
now band member, were also at Mortimer's on a prior occasion. Michael is the person who had been telling you about Ondara.
He showed me Andara's music in his car a couple weeks before this, and he was like, "This is my favorite singer," and he was like, he actually lives here or is from here.
He's from here, yeah.
After he moved from Kenya, and he showed me, and I was like, this is great, this is awesome. And he showed me a photo, and then it was weird. I was actually at Mort's by myself. I'm in the back bar, and I'm standing there next to the photo booth, and I look to the right of me, and I'm like, I'll be damned.
Isn't that Michael's favorite musician?
That's Andara. So I don't think I didn't sneak a photo.
But you did summon.
But I texted Michael. So I was like, hey, buddy, I think your favorite singer's at the bar next to me. And he was like, no way. And he'd already tuned in for the night. But after I texted that, he was like, I'll be right there.
And then a week or so later?
A week or so later, we were hanging out with him, and I just made friends with Andara. It's kind of nice,
He's a very friendly chap.
Very.
He and I became friends when we would play at the same open mic.
Yes, with Sociables.
JT, who does open mic at Sociable Sideworks, used to do it at Motoe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so that's where the two of us, upon both moving to Minneapolis, Jay from Kenya and me from England, that was our first encounter with the Twin Cities music scene and encountering the ecosystem of the Twin Cities music scene through that open mic. And if this is how good the open mic is, then yes, everything is true about it being.
It's really interesting to me. I mean, you come up playing open mics and stuff, and it's like that was my whole life in, the smaller cities and stuff. It's what we had. That's all we had.
Yeah.
I get here, I can go to an open jam all the time if I just want to brush up on some chops, if I want to play something new out that I haven't played quite yet. If I want to have some good challenges and competition, I love that. I want to play with people that, make me keep up to them.
Yeah, they're supportive,
vice versa.
but it's also inspiring and it's a challenge to meet that person where they're at.
Yeah, I want to have to prove myself.
Even Ondara, you went into the studio with Ondara.
That's one of the biggest things I have to thank him for, and I have, he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing for me. For us, honestly, it was just, he said, come record some guitar parts with me at the Terrarium.
Mm-hmm. Is that where you're now also recording?
That's where we're recording with Jason Norris, the owner. That's one of the best connections I could have made in the cities within under a year, right? Even less, 6 months.
It's so with the magic of all of that happening at Mortimer's at the dive bar.
Seriously,
so
yeah.
You see Ondara there, Michael comes, the two of you become friends with Ondara.
I offer Ondara a ride home, and we just sat in the car talking for about an hour. outside of his home.
Sharing stories about
Just music.
your commitment to music.
Yeah. And it was kind of interesting to actually just meet someone that fresh and new that understood everything that I was saying, but also like I felt like I should be interviewing him in that moment because I want to know who this, Grammy-nominated musician is, and playing with Neil Young, like all this just incredible stuff. Like he's just you can talk to him, and he's brilliant, right? You just know he's brilliant.
I could talk with him at the open mic before he was known and know that he was brilliant. Yeah.
Right. And he just sat there though, and he just listened. He just listened, and he asked questions, and he didn't. It was just weird. It was almost kind of made me feel vulnerable, just having someone just ask such thought out questions and think about what he was going to ask before he asked them.
And pay that attention to you. And
the whole time he was talking to me, I felt like I was like, I got to take notes. Like, this is very interesting. Like, the people deserve that. People deserve that attention, and people deserve that understanding. I don't know. That was kind of just the one thing that just, made me just really click with him. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the studio at Terrarium, and I've recorded a couple records, but never in a studio like that. Never have I ever even seen a Neve board in person, and just was reassured the whole time being there to just, hey, this is a good space, this is comfortable, we like what you're doing. And really, in the end of it, it was more so just meet Jason, and for Jason me to vibe, and then now Jason and I are awesome friends, and I love him. I love his studio, and we decided, hey, this is where we're gonna do our record. Like, this is where the new record is coming. This is our first record with all 4 new members, well, with Nick included. We did the EP together, and that's the place. Like, that is the place.
So you went in and you recorded Spiral Out.
Yeah.
So far. And a little bit later in the interview, we'll talk about that song, and the version of it that we'll hear is a demo. It's not what you recorded it.
It's a demo. It's going to be pretty close to exactly how it's going to sound because it's the updated demo. And the funniest part about that is that demo sounds better than anything we've ever released and recorded.
It does sound very good.
Yeah.
As does the other music that you put out.
You start somewhere, right? The other recordings have done well for us as well, but this is just for a personal level. That is the top. That is the top, and I'm so excited to just start plucking away the rest of these songs. And nowadays, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I was always very very firm believer in recording an album and releasing an album and making it. We're always been analog driven musicians, and as a band, like we want to do tape. We want to do that raw sound. We play rock and roll. We play old school rock and roll. But I want a record that tells a story, just like yours, right? That's why I love that. It's a concept record. That's exactly what that is. You are doing...
Not just a collection of songs.
No, you're not... Yeah, you don't want to skip around even. Like, I want it to be from front to back. You put the needle down, you let it go until it's...
It has a trajectory.
Up. Yeah.
The records that you've put out do have that.
Exactly.
I like how the 8-track record ends. Like, you've highlighted in past interviews, like tracks 7 and 8 are a very intentional climax.
Yes, big time. And then the start of the record, Small Town Girl...
Yep.
The sound of me. We bought a church. We bought an old former abandoned church in Lake Lillian, Minnesota, built in 1947, old Lutheran church. All wooden sanctuary with a balcony, a stage, and we're like, this is where we're gonna do our first record, right? And we did. And so, like, learning how to use the sound, we had kind of recorded that first record maybe 3 or 4 times over a couple of years.
To get the sound right in the church. You say you bought the church?
Yeah, so our friend who always was like, when we went on tour, he would drive the bus and his name's Brett, really good friend. I haven't seen him in a while, but him and his father own, pretty much half the properties in that town. So we went in with him on that church, Johnny, our drummer, did, and we just kind of, it had, the huge sanctuary, then it had 3 floors of classrooms on the side of it built in, had the classic church basement with a kitchen and big, banquet hall, I mean, we did everything from recording our album upstairs in the sanctuary 3 times to recording our first ever cassette tape that we released. It was a very limited thing that wasn't the best, but it was pretty cool in the basement. But yeah, when we finally ended up recording the record, it was winter and we couldn't afford to pay for the heat in this church because it's huge. So what we did is we built a quarantine. Before quarantine was a quarantine, now that I think about it, this is before COVID. But it was out of like plastic sheets and 2x4s to make the frame of this room up on the stage of the church.
Oh, wow.
And then we included our sound guy, Dom, our engineer, right next to us so he could actually see through the plastic while we're recording. And we heated the inside of those plastic rooms with little space heaters.
Wow.
It probably wasn't very fire code safe, but we ended up doing the album and it worked, and that last time was the time that we decided to put out. And then we were so supported and got a grant even for vinyl from Jade Presents in Fargo, Jade Nielsen, who's been a huge supporter of us. But yeah, that church was incredible. That was the concept at that point. Like, so the first song, Small Town Girl, is you can hear the wooden doors creaking closed and then my footsteps up to the stage. And this was like the idea I had right at the end of post-production. It was like, I was like, this needs to be more special. We cut off the intro of that song that was originally there. And then, yeah, we just put a mic in the room. I open up the doors of the sanctuary, I slam them. I walk all the way up the middle of the aisle of the pews, walk up to the stage, and plug in the amp, turn it on, let it ring out, and that's how the album starts.
That's excellent.
Yeah. And
you don't just casually record a record in a church and not draw attention to it.
Right. We had it's funny that you say that. Like, there was a lot of people that were like, you guys shouldn't be doing that. That's a holy place. I'm like, well, it used to be. It's our holy place now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
This is our church now.
Well, I strongly feel that music has an important spiritual significance.
Yeah.
Do you
Yes.
feel this?
Yeah.
I think
much more than I ever got out of a holy place for myself. I've never felt. Yeah, I've never felt anything move me more than music. And honestly, I have my favorite records and artists and albums and stuff, and everyone does. But out of my favorite artists, I have my favorite albums. I have my least favorite albums. I have my favorite albums. Out of my favorite albums, I have my favorite songs. Out of my favorite songs, I have my favorite parts. Even my favorite artists, my favorite songs, those songs will have a part where I go, oh God, if they only did this. And that's just me being a prick. But like, that's what I write my songs off of. Like, we're all derived from something else, but
Yes.
and that's fair. And it got to the point where, you remember as a kid, like listening to records. And I mean, I listen personally to everything in the world. Like I spent every day and night just listening to songs online or buying records that I didn't. I looked at the label, I was like, wow, that looks cool. And I'd go home and I'd be driving home from Fargo to Valley City, an hour west, and listening to the first time I ever hear Radiohead and just being like, just blown away.
The first record that I ever bought was the Benz, and it was on the way to visit my grandparents, to play in the car. And the other day, you know my girlfriend Fiona very well. I met her at Mortimer's too. Mortimer's is a very magical place.
Shout out.
But we were going on a car journey to her kids' to her parents.
Yeah.
And she always plays CDs in the car, so I got the Benz, and it was nice.
Nice.
It felt like kind of full circle. The
little bit.
first record that I listened to on my way to my grand's that I bought with my money, listening to with Fiona and her kids.
Remember the feeling you got when you put that record on? And I don't know. In Rainbows for me, I remember sitting outside of the record store in Fargo. I'd driven there. It was a school night. I might have done it even without permission. And I'm just like 15 or 16, like my second vehicle I ever owned. And I put it in outside the record store. And I remember I sat there. I think I actually sat in that parking spot for the whole record before I even left.
Because that's a record that has a trajectory.
Big time.
Yeah.
Front to back. And I just was like hammered by the fact that, like, I don't know, I've never heard anyone make those noises before so
that
well.
It was possible to create something so expressive. And
If I have goosebumps every song, that's something else. I mean, that's just wild. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to.
And then that sets the bar.
Yeah. So after I hear that and I hear all these favorite albums and favorite records, then I hear so many of them and I get to the point where it's like that dopamine, that drug of finding your new favorite record or song or artist, right? That feeling you get when you find this and then you listen to it. My personal hell is me listening to a song or record 50 times in a row until I can't stand it anymore because I've done this to myself, right? Mm-hmm. It's that drug thing, right? It's an addictive personality trait.
Right. The habit.
Yeah. Now I get to the point where, you know, the naughty starts and I go, okay, I want to feel that again. Now I have the boys to do it. And we all have the capability to do this, so let's write our own favorite music. So I wrote the stuff that made me feel that. And that was the first record. Now I look back and, like, you know, you start somewhere. That record, when I wrote that and I felt that feeling from my own music, that was huge.
Yeah.
And then the EP comes out and we all put our stuff down and we all felt that. We all felt like, oh my God, we did 3 songs and we're all goosebumped out, right?
Yeah.
So this record is the same thing, and it's like, now we're at Terrarium, now we have the capability of doing it in one day, of having a demo that's so insanely polished but still raw, because our music's raw, it's not polished, but to have it actually recorded on that kind of equipment and that kind of space with that kind of an engineer, that's one of the best drugs there is, I guess.
I really like where this conversation is going. You're talking about dopamine, one of the best drugs there is.
Yeah.
It's a healthy, life-serving habit, isn't it? This relationship with music, and it is parallel to addiction.
Yeah.
It's a repeated behavior.
Yeah.
But it is obviously, it's life-serving.
Absolutely.
The parallel with Michael, like leaving higher education, I spent so much of my time just paying attention to the act of creation, listening to music, paying attention to music,
Right.
honoring music.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me any money, and some person might think, you know, that's a weird thing to keep on doing, but
it's more than that.
It's life-serving. It feels good, and to be able to, that's what part of what I want to do with this workbook.
Yeah.
The Hum record has a trajectory, and it's a trajectory that is self-reflective about the significance of music, and it's prompting anyone who wants to go on a journey to go on a similar journey.
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of a guide in that way through that record. Yeah. That's something I've never touched on in that sense of just, you have even, I mean, your approach at that is really interesting. And you're qualified to do so, which is also interesting.
It's funny to kind of integrate the different components with the, you know, have the seal of approval, like doctorate. Yeah. But then also really what would make me more qualified is like doing this a lot. Yeah. And being active creatively. Yeah. I wasn't working on I hadn't written any new music for a couple of years when I started working on the book. Yeah. And I think I wasn't really qualified by virtue of that to write the book about harnessing creativity, but then I ended up making a record because of becoming more intentional about harnessing creativity. Yeah,
to understand the amount of work that you put into that is difficult for a lot of people. I mean, like, that's a lot. That's the care. That's the passion, because it's more than just the music, even at that point, you know? It's more, you're trying to get a point across.
A point about music, though.
Right.
Also.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, you know, it's not a random fact about us that we keep on gravitating back to magical places like Mortimer's. Yeah. And especially what with me having my shot of Malore at Mortimer's at the beginning of the music video. Yeah. It might seem like, oh, this is a bad habit. This person keeps going back to the place where you get shots of Malort. Yeah. Well, Malort itself I'm not even going to get started on that. We can separate the two things. The magic of Mortimer's isn't all about Malort. I'm glad I quit drinking Polishes, because I was going to drown in blackberry brandy eventually. We all know some habits are better than other habits, and the habit of coming back, playing guitar, becoming more adept at one's instrument, becoming more able to express oneself in a variety of ways. You don't just write songs for the Naughties.
Right.
You've shared very different music with me as well that you create. You're just constantly...
Yeah, my solo record that I've been working on is... I can't even plug that yet. It was kind of almost like, felt like cheating to me to do an album that doesn't have me playing guitar on it. Synth-driven stuff, like, it just almost felt like it was...
How did you find yourself making that kind of music?
So I was always really into film score stuff,
Uh-huh.
soundtracks, any epics, any compositions, stuff that's, I don't know, even the Naughties. I mean, if you take the lyrics out of a tune, I think more so I can convey what the song is about just in the music.
Yeah, like Home. Like listen to
Yes.
like the end of Home doesn't have
it's
vocals.
No, and it's, yeah, that's exactly it. I want to be able to hear. I've never been a lyrical guy in the sense of even like when I hear my favorite songs, I'm not listening to the lyrics. When people are like, "Oh, did you hear that?" That's one of my personal hells, by the way. Having someone keep rewinding a song and saying, "Did you catch that one?"
It's
No,
interrupting.
just let me listen to the beat. Just stop. Give me your phone. Stop it. That is a personal hell.
It's interrupting the connection.
Oh yeah, like, did you hear that lyric? Did you hear what Drake said there? Like,
It's not a poem.
it's, yeah, I mean, God, I don't, yeah. So when I do the electronic stuff, I've been taking a lot of influence from like Trent Reznor, always.
Good old Trent Reznor.
Yeah, you know, I slept on that a long time, but yeah, just the fact that, you know, he can play in a rock and roll band. He can make movie scores. He can do his solo stuff it's all very, very score-like. It is all very mood conveying. That's why I Spiral Out, like I say, like, personally as a band, we don't believe that's the single. That's not a hit on that record, but it's gonna be placed in that record at the perfect spot where you might get a few good rocking and rolling, and then all of a sudden you're gonna have that one, and you're gonna be back to being like, oh, whoa, they're actually being serious again. Like, don't let this confuse you. Like, we're not a you know, happy-go-lucky song band.
Yeah.
I've never been able to write that kind of stuff, and I don't plan to.
Yeah. So saying that made me think of the bio. In the bio, it says they have no manifesto, just the desire to ground people in the here and now, to share an experience with their friends and fans, to make them forget everything else for just one night.
Yeah.
So this desire to ground people in the present, that I was thinking of that when you were saying about someone stopping the song and suddenly the beat's gone.
Just let it marinate. Let it go. You know?
I feel like
Let it
music
ride.
helps us be in the present, especially rhythm.
You can't force anyone to like anything, right? You know, that's not how things work. And when people do that, it's almost a compulsion, I guess, at that point. I think it's more of just a compulsion. It's, not everyone's gonna like what you like, and once you understand, like, with music, I don't know about you, but like, the Naughties didn't start to create a fandom. It didn't start to create money. It didn't start for any of this. Like, this was therapy, and when I find, you know, everything draws us back to music, like we were saying, the coolest thing about music is, yeah, it's therapy, but it's also because it's based off trauma. Like, it's what I think of music is the one thing that keeps me alive, is the one thing that's going to kill me, in that sense of like, I have asthma and I need oxygen to breathe, but the more I breathe sometimes, the worse it is. Like, it's just, that's what music is. It's like, if I needed water to live, but water I was allergic to. It's a weird thing for me, but I feel like if I don't have those experiences that I've had to write these songs, like, I quit writing good music. And I don't know, I'm just hard on myself. And people are like, no, that's not the case, but it is.
These songs that you've written so far, would you say they're inseparable from traumatic experiences? They are the fruits of the processing.
That's the therapy,
Yeah.
And we started the Naughties for that. It was about getting up there with your brothers and we weren't doing it for anyone but ourselves, and we still don't. And it just so happened to be that people dig it and
Yeah.
support it. And I honestly, like, that is the most amazing thing, most amazing feeling in the world. And just the support has always been incredible. But that's not how it started. This was almost just kind of nothing else worked. You know, you could go to therapy, you could do drugs, you could do all this numbing stuff and still do. And
Yeah.
but that music was that feeling that I was looking for in all those other substances, right? Mm-hmm. And still will.